It's that time of year again. We have a new champion for financial services in the Square Mile. Alastair King is the 696th Lord Mayor of London. He's an asset manager and former corporate lawyer and says his aim this year is to reopen London's capital markets. And Alastair King is with us in the Bloomberg Radio studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Great to see you with us. Now, Rachel Reeves has been speaking to Bloomberg ahead of her Mansion House speech tonight. She says the UK will consolidate pension funds but won't force them to invest in UK assets. Is this going to work?
Rachel Reeves is absolutely right that there needs to be real effort and energy put into reforming of the pension system. We have had too long a period where pension funds have been unreformed, and I think that that's led to an imbalanced system that we have. It's also wasteful in the sense of we've had a big pool, the second largest pool of a pension pool in the world, yet we're not allowed to use those monies to invest in some of the risk assets that we have to invest into British innovation. And I think that there does need to be substantial change.
OK, is this going to be enough? The comparison is being made, for example, to the Australian pension fund. I wonder whether that's a little bit misleading, the Aussie fund being something like 40 years old and absolutely vast and deeply invested in Australian champions. I mean, surely the UK version cannot be compared to that.
No, but I think that where there is a great opportunity for us is the fact that in the Australian system, there are around 14 of the superannuation funds. The number of pension funds we have here in the United Kingdom is around 21,000. I mean, imagine the extraordinary duplication of fees and effort in having 21,000 different pension pots. I think the case for consolidation is there.
The idea, though, of a consolidation boosting and having an effect on the UK is something, it's not a new idea. It's something that's been mentioned by previous chancellors as well, but we haven't seen much progress on it. How quickly can we expect to see results or to see if it's working at all?
I think that there is certainly a willingness around the city that there is a need to use some of these funds to invest into British innovation. I think you have this element that if you're all investing into one particular class of asset, in the pensions case, largely fixed income, effectively that becomes a riskier asset if everyone's in it, and so therefore I do sense that there is a need for diversification, and also there's a need to use some of that vitality in order to invest into risk assets.
So are you against the idea of mandating funds to invest in UK assets?
I mean, I think it would need to have a substantial change in the law in the sense that the pension fund trustees do have fiduciary duties to try and find the best returns. And so therefore, if you do want to mandate, then it has to be a legal element. But I think that certainly, I think the mood music out there within the financial community is that there is a much more willingness to invest into UK assets now, and it may be that some certainly, I would say, incentives to go ahead and invest into UK assets rather than mandation may be a way forward.
What would those look like?
Well, I mean, I think that we could look at something I will be talking about later on in the Mansion House banquet today, and that is this idea of the cash ISAs. For instance, we're getting all sorts of possibilities in relation to tax breaks. Why are we incentivizing people to invest into cash, largely a non-productive asset? Why don't we give higher tax incentives to invest into UK public companies? That might be something that I'll be raising with the Chancellor today.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. But I mean, if I may, those potentially are really quite small tweaks versus the 20 to 30 year decline in investing in UK assets that we have seen. The S&P 500 has tripled in value in the past decade. The FTSE 100 has been flat. Shouldn't we just give up on the idea of boosting the London market, accept that it is in decline, and actually focus on other businesses where London has real strength?
No, I don't agree. I think that there is a case for the London Stock Exchange and quoted assets here in London. If we are serious about being a global financial centre, which we are, then we have to have a really functioning, all-powerful stock exchange. And just to your earlier point in relation to that Cash Asher point, it's not really tinkering around the edges. The market capitalisation of the London market is around £2 trillion. The amount of money in cash ISAs is 250 billion, so over 10% of the market capitalisation. There is a decent amount of money to go in there that potentially could be utilised.
How much harder is this mission to revive the capital markets in London now that Donald Trump is in power in the United States and the ensuing market reaction, the dollar at a 2-year high?
Well, the city did pretty well under the last Trump administration. I think that there was, so I don't think it's not a zero-sum game either. It's effectively
but more difficult.
I would sense it provides different challenges and different opportunities, and there are, of course, some parts of the world that don't want to be listing, for instance, in New York. They want to list perhaps elsewhere. So I do sense that there are opportunities for us, and we're big enough to take advantage of those opportunities.
Do you see any signs of companies based here in the UK, working here in the UK, onshoring or reshoring into the US now?
I haven't experienced much of that in the course of last week. People have not been mentioning that to me in relation to that, certainly in relation to the areas that I work in. It's something that potentially could come to later on, and I think it's up to us to try and make sure that the city remains very vital, properly regulated, and a great opportunity for investment.
Does the UK avoid tariffs by dint of, you talked about, perhaps the UK doing a little better under Trump or last time round. He's a slight Anglophile, perhaps, also thanks to the fact that we've got a services-driven economy. Does the UK avoid tariffs or the big hit that we expect for Europe?
I don't think that we'll avoid them. Let's see what is in the detail of the legislation rather than we're dealing on rumour at the moment. But I do sense that the British economy is well set up, given its services bias, to avoid the full front of tariffs.
You're welcoming Rachel Reeves to Mansion House later for the speech. I think it's fair to say that a lot of the decisions in the budget haven't gone down terribly well with businesses, things like the rise in employers' national insurance contributions. What's the financial services community saying about these things?
I think that there is, I've heard the criticism, it is out there. I think there is, which is interesting. I think on the other side, though, there is something that's been lacking perhaps for some time, and that is there is some stability. And I think that the stability can give rise to people starting to make long-term capital budgeting decisions. And so therefore, although perhaps some of the fiscal landscape has changed, there is the possibility that for the next 5 years they know pretty much what's going to happen, and so therefore they can then take that into consideration when they're working out that expansion. Also, I would say that I don't see a fall-off, certainly in the financial and professional services people that I have spoken to, in their investment plans. It's not
going to hurt job creation.
No, I don't think it will in the sectors. I think it's different in other sectors out there, hospitality and other. There may be some problems, but I think financial and professional services, which is in my bailiwick, I think that the impression there is that it's still a positive place.
Okay. Having said that, perhaps that may not be so surprising when you think that Rachel Reeves and the Labour government do seem to be listening to the city in the sense that she's talking about consolidation but no mandate, which was kind of the big overhang and the big worry. Now, though, is she going to come to Mansion House and actually ask the City of London, press the City of London to deliver on economic growth? Because that is her pitch, isn't it? Private business needs to deliver growth.
I'm sure she will do exactly that this evening. She'll be asking the City to do that. And also, I think she's right to ask it because effectively I sense the City and the financial professional services sector in general, that's where the Labour government are going to get their growth in the short term, effectively, because the buildings are already built, the people are already trained. The missing element is confidence, in my view. I think there's obviously some things to do in relation to regulatory reform, and I'll be talking with the Chancellor about that today.
So is this a pro-business, a pro-financial services government?
Well, I think that the thing that my job as Lord Mayor will be to try and boost confidence within the sector in order to get people to take investment decisions in order to provide some of that growth.
Has the city completely moved on now from its challenges over Brexit? We know that there's discussions ongoing about perhaps improving ties, but there are some looming deadlines as well in issues like clearing that could pose further challenges.
I would say yes. Brexit has scarcely featured in some of the questions that I've had over the course of the last few days. I've been in office since Friday, and it hasn't come up. I think also the further away you get from London as you go around the world, the less, again, sort of Brexit comes up as a matter. I think that the course is set, and so therefore I think that there are other things to be concerned about.
A final thought, though, on in particular the non-DOMS issue. We spent a lot of time thinking about that and tracking the number of people who were leaving the UK. Do you think that there will be more of those because of the tax changes from Rachel Reeves?
Well, what I've seen is that that people who have left, and we're all aware of them, some leaving, largely their businesses are remaining here in the United Kingdom. So I have not heard of businesses leaving because of somebody's tax affairs. Plus also I think there is a great desire among many of them to return at some stage. But I think that where we've got an opportunity is the fact that 40% of people who work in the city, the financial professional services in the city, are born abroad. We have to make sure we've got a really competitive fiscal landscape for them to stay here, to scale here and invest here.
And visas, is that an issue?
I think it's certainly something that we need to be working with the Chancellor and others in government to make sure that we're right. But I think that that's less of an issue now than it perhaps was 18 months ago.
Alastair, thank you so much for your time this morning, for taking all of our many questions. Alastair King is the Lord Mayor of London, 696. I hope that you're going to become a friend of the programme, as your predecessors have been, Michael Mainelli, that you're taking over from. Hope we'll see you again very soon.